Apparently booking a seat on a train is not a real booking if someone else decides to sit there, by user Magnus_40. I was travelling from Edinburgh to London by train and had a booked window seat with a table. I got on the train to find 4 guys sitting at the table. The one in my seat that was clearly marked as booked, refused to move as he was with his friends and the train was packed. The ticket collected passed and I asked him to help. He asked the guy to move but he refused and somehow that was that. So what now? I asked. You can find another seat but I have no power to move him, only the police and move him and they will not turn up just to move someone out of a seat. There were no seats free in the carriage and probably not many free on the train so standing to London was a possibility. I'm going to take a seat in first class, better surroundings, power sockets and free tea and coffee. You can't sit there, you don't have a booking. Well, you could call the police to move me but apparently they won't turn out to move someone out of a seat. I had a lovely trip with power for my laptop and a wide comfy seat. How I stopped an ex-roommate from taking food off my plate, by user Sutton Pineapple 821. I used to live with a roommate a few years ago. She was a friend of mine for a very long time and she had some habits I was unaware of until I lived with her. One of my last favorites was her eating habits. This girl ate like a pig. She never ever closed her lips while chewing, and would always take more than her fair share if there was a shared meal. She would do things like cook steaks over and over in the same pan and leave the grease/butter in the pan on the stove in between for days/weeks and then got mad at my cat for jumping up there to eat some of it. I never ate her cooking because I didn't trust it at all for obvious reasons. The worst habit though was taking food off of your plate while you were eating. I resigned to eating in my room or outside just to avoid this. The dog begged less than she did. I asked her to stop so many times and she never listened to me. So this is how I fixed it and also where I get really petty. There were 2 things I know about this woman. She's got the palate of a toddler. Salt and pepper on a dry-ass piece of meat, ketchup is spicy, fresh herbs who? She loves mac and cheese. So this is what I did. Unlike her, I live for spicy. I grow some crazy hot peppers every year and just love the feeling of a toasty mouth. I was at the store and found some pepper jack cheese. Not any pepper jack though. Ghost pepper jack. I brought that bad boy home and made some mac and cheese. I went the whole 9 yards with it too with the crusted top and everything. I waited until just before she got home from work and sat my butt down with a nice plate of my spicy mac and cheese. She walked in to see me eating this stuff and this time actually asked me if she could have some of it off of my plate. I casually told her that I didn't mind at all but just neglected to inform her that the cheese did indeed have a kick. Even for me I was struggling to eat this stuff with a straight face. She took a big bite of it. Her reaction was unchanged at first and then it started to twist. I think that's really the only appropriate description of that facial expression. Her face got bright red and I watched the tears and beads of sweat form on her forehead. As she ran to the kitchen for milk, I casually said, you know, that stuff does have a bit of a kick to it. Probably should have warned you. She came up with many new and creative insults but she never took food from me again. Do what you gotta do. Punishing my ex-mil for snooping, by user cloud_designer. Posted as a comment and I was told you lovely people might enjoy this tale of pettiness. So this happened when I was, happily married to my, ex-husband. For context I am a petty woman and hella passive-aggressive. We were recently married and bought a house about a 20 minutes walk from his parents. I am very close with my family and this put me over an hour by bus away from them. I don't drive, and an hour's bus away from work. My ex did drive and his job was 20 minutes away by car. He wanted to live near his family and work because of petrol costs and because I now know he is an insufferable mummy's boy. While we were living together his mum still washed all his clothes because I once failed to get biro out of one of his work shirts and his mum still made him a packed lunch. He was 25 when we bought our house, 27 when I divorced his ass. The issue, his mum had a house key in case of emergencies and had a habit of letting herself in to clean while we were at work. My house was never dirty and I took offense that she would enter our house while we were away to clean it. I also hated the thought of someone being in my home while I was not. I eventually told my ex to make her stop. This was after we had been on holiday and I returned to find air fresheners in every room of the house like it stank previously. Ex refused to talk to Mill because why would he? It's around this time I notice our bedroom is also being cleaned, bed being made, sheets changed, my bedside table straightened up. My underwear drawer had also been refolded. Furious I asked my ex again to make this stop. It's an invasion of privacy. Again he says she's just helping us out so declines to speak with her. Upset and angry I call my mum, who is where I have learned the art of pettiness. We talk and meet up in town the following day. We proceed to go to an adult store and buy the biggest dildo we can find. I return home and place it in my drawer. When I leave for work the following day I place said dildo on our unmade bed. I got a phone call from my ex asking me if I'd lost my mind. I pointed out if he had spoken to Mill she wouldn't have seen it. He was mad at me for ages, but his mum never went in our room again. TLDR, X, Mill was snooping in our bedroom, so I brought the biggest dildo I could find and put it on the bed. Snooping stopped and, X, hubby was cross but I was very amused. Edit for frequent comments and questions. The cleaning. This wasn't nice cleaning. She would re-clean dishes I had cleaned and left out to dry. She would spray air fresheners because she knew they triggered my migraines. She refolded my underwear. If she had asked if we wanted her to, or had we asked her to, it'd be different. For one, I'd have insisted on paying her. The way she did it was always followed up with something like, "Oh, while you were at work I popped over and mopped your floors." I couldn't stand the thought of them just being left another day. I cleaned the house top to bottom every Saturday, including mopping. Putting things in his drawers that implied he was gay. I thought about it, but I'm pretty sure it was only my things being looked through. Also, my mum thinks he was gay and using me to pass. His family were incredibly homophobic, so it could have potentially endangered him. Edit 2. Someone asked me what made me leave, and I think my response gives valuable context to the whole relationship. I mean, it was a lot of things combined. His mother snooping and always insulting me. His dad perving on me. We lived with them for a while and he would try to catch me coming out of the shower. He would also tell me how attractive I was and tell me if he was younger he would have been all over me, which still gives me the ick. His utter disinterest in any of my hobbies, hopes or dreams. I like history and old buildings, so we went to one for a free day out and he complained the entire time. He was really into Nintendo games, so I would organize E3 parties for him and promote his podcast, neither of which I had any interest in, so it crushed me that he couldn't even fake it for a day. The way he constantly criticized my family, we are working class and he was middle class. That he was always putting us in debt. Despite him having the bigger salary, I paid the mortgage alone because he had to pay for his car. That was his exact logic. The weed smoking, which led to him throwing up all over the bathroom and making me clean it. How he went drinking with his dad and vomited in the bed and left me asleep in his vomit while he slept on the couch. The way he would cough up phlegm, spit it into the bathtub and leave it for me to clean. But it had to be the shower incident. I don't know how, but he managed to flood the bathroom. We had one of those showers that's attached to your bath. The only thing I can think of is that he didn't pull the shower curtain shut or decided, "Hey, today I'm going to shower on the floor." I was in the kitchen having breakfast and water started coming through the ceiling and through the light. I ran upstairs and told him to shut the water off. He insisted on finishing his shower first. I called my dad, who's an electrician, and he said to get next door to look at it. Lovely guy who is a plumber, and he would come round to check the wiring after, but for now to turn everything off. My ex got his dad to look at it, who is not a tradesman of any kind, and he said it was fine. There was still water in my light fixture, so my ex deemed it fine. I got next door over anyway because he was a plumber and I didn't want to invalidate my building insurance by not getting something like that looked at. My ex told his dad. The next time we went to his parents, his dad came right at me, inches from my face, with me backed into the closed front door, shouting how he was never going to do anything for me ever again because I was an ungrateful bitch. My ex did nothing. I walked home in tears and he did not follow. I found out from his sister, who stuck up for me and yelled at her dad, that he hadn't said a word in my defense. I knew then nothing was going to change and it was getting worse, and I refused to let myself feel unsafe, so I packed my shit and left. My mum recycles unwearable clothes, I wear them anyway, by username_Terry. So my mum has a bit of a bad habit of making decisions for the family without asking the family. Stuff like volunteering my dad to host an event, or assuming I'd be happy to bake banana cake for her work party, or giving away some of our old books or toys, etc. One day, I'm in the laundry shed when I find a dirty rag that's actually my favorite summer shirt. Apparently, because I hadn't worn it in a while, reason being it was winter, I obviously didn't want it anymore. I tried to clean the shirt, but it was white linen and she had used it for boot polish. The stains were not going to come out. Another thing to know about my mother was she was very keen on appearances, hence the boot polish, always politely suggesting us to get haircuts or new shoes, be neat and tidy at all times. So naturally for the next few years I started wearing the ratty stained shirt everywhere. Whatever the weather. Even after I outgrew it and it became more of a crop top, I still wore it to church. I still have the shirt, although it's too tight in the sleeves to put on comfortably. She's invited me over for dinner this weekend. I bet she thought I got rid of it years ago. I asked you not to do that, you kept doing it, so prepare to smell horrible. By user Caliberty85. I live with family and one member in particular has zero respect for others. I've been sprayed with Lysol, bleach water, and ended up in the emergency room due to her repeatedly drowning herself in overpowering perfumes. I have asthma and strong smells cause all kinds of problems for me. She knows this and just doesn't care. Recently I went out to lunch with a friend and came home to discover my bedroom absolutely reeked. She had picked the lock and sprayed my bed and floor with things she knows make me sick. I have asked her repeatedly to stay out of my room, not to spray things in there, and as usual she ignored me and did what she wanted. Once I had stopped choking on the fumes, I went off on her and, as always, she played the victim and said I just hated her. I left the apartment for a while to calm down and came home to find she had sprayed perfume all over the living room, so I once again started choking on fumes and had to sit outside for nearly an hour in 90-degree heat. Now comes the revenge. She is always worried that she stinks, and she does. She smells like cigarettes and pain creams, so I borrowed a urine concentrate used in hunting from a friend and put a little bit in all her soaps, shampoos, lotions and body sprays. She can't figure out why she smells like old pee now, and is convinced it's something she's eating since it's in all her heavily perfumed products.